Welcome, everybody. We are going to just wait a minute here while everybody comes in from the waiting room. But if you're here for DCSD's Digital Literacy, Empowering Young Minds, Navigating the Digital World, you are in the right place.
Recording in progress.
And everybody's kind of coming in. There we go. Okay, we are going to go ahead and just to be sensitive of everybody's time tonight, go ahead and get started. I see we've got both of our speakers on. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Amy Pfister. This is our January DCSD Parent University, Empowering Young Minds, Navigating the Digital World. So I'm the Community Relations Coordinator here at Douglas County School District. And just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. Tonight's presentation is being recorded, and we will share that on our Parent University page and email that out to families a little bit later in the week, probably Friday. And we will have a Q&A portion dedicated at the end of this, hopefully 5 to 10 minutes, where you can ask questions. And questions relevant to tonight's topic. So we're just gonna, there's a lot to discuss. Digital literacy is it's a big one. So we're gonna keep topics relevant to tonight. And then again, if you have questions, feel free to email me or put them in the Q&A. We want to thank our sponsors tonight, the Douglas County Healthy Youth Coalition for sponsoring, as well as HCA Health One Skyridge. Joining us tonight, we have Douglas County School District's Chief of Staff, Steve Coella. He is going to share a little bit about DCSD's guidelines around digital literacy and some things on deck in this ever-evolving world of social media and digital literacy. And then happy to introduce Nick Thompson, who's going to take it from there. And he is going to share, Nick is a licensed clinical social worker. He's been working with middle school and high school students, families, private practice, residential for the past 15 years. So he's got a wealth of information that he's going to share on this particular topic from that. So I will go ahead and kick it off. We're going to start with you, Steve, if you're good with that. And I'll just turn my screen off so you've got the floor.
Man, thanks a lot, Amy. And before I get going, just so you know, Amy has put a lot in putting this together. She's done a phenomenal job of doing so. So, to the extent that she can, either virtually or in person, give her a high five. She truly has done a lot of work on this and bringing this all together. So, again, thank you, Amy. As Amy said, I am the district's chief of staff. And what that means basically is I get to work on a whole lot of stuff with a whole lot of great people. And I'm currently working on school pairings and social media AI, along with our strategic plan, among a variety of other things. And so it's really my pleasure to be here. I can tell you a lot about what we're doing I'm doing professionally on this. I'll also tell you that I'm a parent of 3 DCSD kids. They're 10, 7, and 6. We are starting to enter into the conversation of cell phones, social media, etc. I can tell you both professionally and personally, it is absolutely a challenge. We are all navigating this. Particularly this year, the superintendent has said for this year and beyond, we really need to engage in a more systematic way in this conversation. So digital literacy in our world encompasses AI. That's certainly one of our focus this year, along with social media. And I know tonight we're a little more focused on social media and cell phones in particular. Obviously, with AI, there's a cell phone interplay, and which adds just to the layers of complication. But at the end of the day, what we're all geared towards is helping to ensure that our kids can master both AI, social media, and be utterly digitally literate, to include how to use it, when to use it, when to put the phone down, when to get a phone, and that's obviously more of an adult conversation. And so that moving forward, they can really interact in a productive way, the most productive way possible in this new world. And this new world ain't all bad. It's not. Social media in particular, cell phones, social media, AI, if we think about the onset of the iPhone, um, it's actually stunning when you consider that anyone with a cell phone has pretty much every bit of information in the world that they need to operate, to answer questions if they're curious, if they've got to do a job, whatever the case might be. It's astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing and sort of the scope of human history that we now have this power. It's incredible. I'll add a layer too, a personal layer. When my father passed away, my mom was 70 some odd years old. Had been married for 50 years, and they were truly their life partners. And when dad passed, mom, it was tough. It was really, really tough, as you can imagine. And so what we did was we gave her a cell phone. She had never had an iPhone before. And she learned how to use Facebook and was able to connect with family, not only in the United States, but in Europe, where they had come from Italy. And it was a bit of a lifesaver for her. It was actually pretty incredible. And I suspect we all have stories like that of the really positive impact that social media can have. And so our approach is again, it's not all bad. There's actually some good, and let's leverage the good. But we all know that there's some challenge. We're all navigating it. The adults are navigating it certainly. If you have a social media account, you have a sense for it. If you've read the media, otherwise, you have a very strong sense for adults just not doing well with social media, not navigating it very well. But we also know that our kids are absolutely navigating it. And I know Nick will talk way more about it, but there's a lot of emerging data now that suggests that kids are struggling. That since the onset of social media, that you've seen an uptick in anxiety, of depression, of suicidal ideation, and on down the line. And again, I think if we're being fair, the adults who give kids these phones or phones or the phones, we're all navigating it. But again, it's our job as educators, particularly in my role, Nick's role, to bring out and to lay out what that data is and what are some possible solutions. We want to make sure that I'm hitting all of the points I want to hit in the time that I have. We have a pretty robust web page that is our digital literacy web page that will, if you access it, give you information on what that data is that I just referenced, to what's the proper age for a kid to have a phone, and three, to the extent that you want to give your kid a phone, and my wife and I are in this world now, how do you lock it down? So whether it's an iPhone, whether it's Android, how do you lock it down? Strategies as easy as maybe take your kid's phone at 7 p.m. and they don't see it until the morning time. Those sorts of things. Again, I'll personalize a little bit. We actually now have a home phone that's an iPhone. We're about 2 months into that. And again, my wife and I are very much into restricting the use of it, only in very discrete time periods, and they don't use it otherwise. And so that's our view. Other parents may have different view. And there's a lot of resources on that webpage. In addition to that webpage, we've been engaged and will continue to engage in a long conversation about what's that proper age for kids to have a phone, about what parents are seeing and what staff are seeing as far as usage of social media, and what are the negative impacts of that, or even phones. Also talking about, and you may know that there's been a lot in the news that there are some school districts that are outright banning phones, and what exactly does that look like for our school district? And so there's been a lot of conversation on that. Expect more conversation on that. As parents, expect surveys on that. And our strategic plan will also touch on that too. And again, just to add layers, This is a truly incredible world that we're in with AI and with social media. All of this conversation is about is to ensure that our kids can master digital literacy and do that really, really well. And we all have a role in that. So really appreciate you having me, Amy. I'm happy to answer any questions after Nick has gone through his conversation. And otherwise, even after this, very available to talk. So again, thank you.
Yeah, so appreciate it. And I think, the key word is navigate. It's just, we are navigating it. It's very personal to each family, and it a behemoth when you're talking about a school district. So, one thing I will do when we share this out on our YouTube page, our Parent University YouTube page on our website, is I will embed our digital literacy, like a link to our digital literacy page, so families can have access to that and know exactly how to find it, because a lot of helpful resources there. So thank you so much, Steve, for sharing, and more to come, ever evolving. Perfect. And I will now turn it over to Nick Thompson, who's joining us, I think, from Boulder tonight. So thanks so much, Nick. I'm going to, nice to see you, meet you. Hope you're staying warm, and take it away. Steve and Nick, you are good to go.
So you
Got
can hear me
confirmation.
and see slides.
Can hear you, can see slides. Yes.
Boom. Okay. Whew. Real quick, I'm highly anxious right now. When I'm anxious, I like to share that I'm anxious. Research shows that the best thing to do for performance anxiety is to actually reframe the anxiety as excitement. So as I'm in it, this doesn't fully relate to digital literacy, but I imagine there's many people watching this themselves or who have children who struggle with anxiety and performance anxiety. So reframing it. If you ask yourself what happens in your body when you're highly anxious, like your heart rate goes up, do you get a little sweaty, do you get tense? Likely what will occur is if I ask you what happens in your body when you're excited, it'll be the exact same physical representation. So what some people know, athletes, performers, musicians, comedians, whatever it may be, they live for the thing that we call anxiety. They see it as excitement. So it's a really cool thing that you can share with your kids. You're not trying to get rid of the anxiety before a big quiz, test, performance, game, conversation. You're just changing the story, the narrative. Does that make sense? You don't have to change any of the sensations in the body. That's difficult. Dang near impossible to change the sensations. But the really cool thing is when you begin to reframe it as excitement, you lean in. Excitement is an approach emotion. Emotions tell us to do one of three things: avoid, approach, or attack. Anxiety is an avoidance emotion. Excitement is an approach emotion. So this wonderful thing that we're figuring out with anxiety is for big stuff, for performances, you don't got to get rid of it. You just got to change the story that you're telling about it. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. Behaviors. One of the behaviors that we're talking about tonight has to do with screens, digital literacy. Because of what I do, I get a lot of emails. I get a lot of articles sent to me, and the articles often have titles like how to talk to your child about the dangers of vaping, how to talk to your child about the dangers of social media, how to talk to your child about the dangers of THC. And I think there's a good argument to be made that they could be replaced by one article titled, How to Talk to Your Child. Now, I'm not saying that all of these different behaviors aren't concerning and worth some education. That's why you're here tonight. I will be doing a bit of that, fear not. But one of the main messages I want to share tonight is before you can address the behavior, the concerning behavior with your child, it's best to know what's behind the behavior, the why, the function, the payoff. And that requires a relationship, an understanding, an active listening. So, I mean, we talk about these behaviors a lot because, yes, they are concerning and they do grab our attention. I was sharing this slide with some of the young people I work with, and they were laughing at it because of the vape pens in the bottom corner. They're like, "Where did you find this photo? That's not even I've never seen anything like that. So even this slide of mine is outdated. One of the things about the behaviors, and especially with technology, it's always evolving. And again, a good idea to have some level of education about the concerning behaviors, about social media, about how kids are using it, but you might not fully ever catch up. So that's why the relationship is the most important thing. And so I wanted to start there, because fear is a disconnect. When we go to a place of fear with our young people, it's like a screen goes up between the two of us or the three of us. Remember, I was always saying emotions tell us to do one of three things: avoid, approach, or attack. Well, fear and other flavors of fear are avoidance emotions. So when we're just focused on the new concerning thing on the phone or the new app or the new study about social media, if we go too much to an elevated state of fear, we disconnect from the moment, from the young person, and from the conversation. And young people are gifted at picking up on when we've gone to a state of fear. So we want to hang in there, not jump to a state of fear, so that we can have a conversation about the concerning behavior. I work with mainly high schoolers and college age kids. I remember it was the first week of classes of this school year, and a freshman I've been working with at CU, he came in and he was smiling ear to ear, and I was asking him how things were going, and he said good. And during the conversation, he mentioned that he was going to parties up on the hill here in Boulder, and I said, well, what are parties like on the hill nowadays? And he goes, it's all beaches and galaxy gas. And I was like, what? I don't understand. I went to a place of somewhat of fear, because uncertainty often equals fear. If now I said that story, so I got to explain. Beaches means peach bush light, and then galaxy gas is this nitrous oxide thing that young people are. It's not fun. Young people are taking. It's whippets. If you know what whippets are, it's very dangerous. The point of this is, when you go to galaxy gas, yes, it is highly concerning, but I want to have a conversation with this young person, and to get to any level of behavioral change, I want to understand why he's drinking peach bush light, why he thinks taking whippets is a good idea, before I can get to the education about, dude, you realize you're just like, killing a lot of brain cells with the galaxy gas and the booze. Okay, fear is a disconnector. When you're concerned about a particular behavior, and you're thinking WTF, this is actually good. Think, what's the function? What is the function of the behavior? All behavior is communication. I'll repeat that. All behavior is communication. So when you're concerned about a particular behavior, ask yourself, what is my child communicating? What are they communicating to their peers, to me, to the world around them? Because if you can connect with what's being communicated, you will not go to a state of fear. You won't. Focus more on the message and less on the medium. Again, the medium is the behavior. Changing, always changing, more rapidly than ever. Focus on the message. And what are the messages that young people, children and adolescents have been sending to their parents, to their peers, to the world around them? These things never change. While the behaviors will change, while the apps will change, these will never change. These are the main messages that young people and adolescents have been communicating generation after generation for thousands and thousands of years. I believe these are the main ones. I need to belong. I want independence. I want to take risks. I'm trying to figure out who I am. I'm going to challenge my parents and other authority. I want attention. I'll start positive. If I don't get that, I'll go negative. I'm avoiding something. I'm hurting. I'm overwhelmed. I'm scared. When I look at this list and I think about social media and screens, it's all of them. The ones really sticking out, I need to belong. Oftentimes those phones, those apps are membership. And nothing matters more in adolescence than membership. Daniel Siegel had something great that he said. He's a neuroscientist expert on adolescence, and he talked about how membership is so important in adolescence that young people will often choose membership over morality because it feels like a matter of life and death to have a tribe. And for so many young people, having access to Snapchat to your phone means membership into the tribe. By the way, understanding these things doesn't mean that you give your children unfettered access to screens. But to have the constructive conversation, we first want to understand what they're getting out of it. Because they get things that you might not get out of your phone. I hope many of you are listening to this who are parents. I hope your main way of membership isn't Snapchat. I really do. I hope you don't check in to see where your friends are by checking Snap Maps. But you need to know what they're getting out of it. They want attention. What's social media about? A lot of it's look at me. The majority of it's look at me. So look at me that often what you present is embellished, if not entirely fabricated. Those last four, I'm avoiding something. Anybody jump on their phone when they don't want to think or feel something uncomfortable? When you're hurting, when you're feeling overwhelmed? Yeah, we know these. These are human. Be aware of time here. Okay, 5:56. And if I'll go over a little bit, if anybody has any interest, I apologize for how long it took me to get going. But apologizing for that just delays it even more. Here's an example. Here's an example of not all technology is bad. We have to have a conversation about the uses, the nutritional value. Yesterday, in preparation for this presentation, I went into Shutterstock, which is like this, it doesn't matter. I went into Shutterstock and I typed into the AI generator a Twinkie and a healthy salad on an iPhone. And it produced this. That is not a stock image. It created that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Specifically, I said a Twinkie and a salad on an iPhone, and it generated that. So I see that as like, oh, what a great use of technology. Now, if you're a photographer who gets paid for stock footage, you might not agree. But here's the nuanced conversation that we need to have about this. And it's kind of meta in this case because these phones can deliver great things and they can also deliver Twinkies. And then the conversation with Twinkies isn't that it's all bad, but it's about moderation. I think I can get linear on this. I think I can land this plane. Why I came up with this slide, it's not fully formed yet, so please forgive me. I was thinking about if I sat next to my 12-year-old niece and she was eating a Twinkie, I would say, oh, nice. I might even go, can I have one? Now, if I sat next to my niece and she sat there for 3 hours eating Twinkies and had about 30 down the gullet, I would go, we need to have a conversation about Twinkies. The difficult thing for young people to use in moderation and to use the aspects of these screens that is most nutritional, it's incredibly difficult because the same device provides this wide range of things that are not great for us or very good for us. I hope that makes sense, like the nutritional value that it delivers. Even the same app. So I was thinking about this in this case. Here's a Twinkie. This is a Twinkie. Hopefully this plays. You get the point. That's a Twinkie. It's okay if I were to watch what? A few of those, maybe even a couple of minutes. But if I am doom scrolling, just short form content that has no nutritional value, no educational value, I mean, that's not going to be good for me. But that's the conversation around moderation. And so that's a YouTube short. But on that same thing, on that same app, let's explain it again. Goodness gracious. That's the thing about Twinkies, I guess. How do I go to the next slide? There we go. On that same thing, YouTube, not too long ago, I watched this 2.5-hour video about the Sumerians. It's incredible. It's one of the best documentaries. I don't know if documentary is the correct word, but it was amazing. Long form, educational, well thought out. And that's the difficulty with it. It's the same delivery model. So having a conversation with your kids, whether it's TikTok, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, how are they using it? The nutritional value. If it's a treat, use it as a treat, a dessert. You don't make a dessert the appetizer or the entree, and that's what's happening so much with scrollable content. Top tips from teenagers. So what I did in preparation for this presentation was to ask the young people that I work with, because I realize I'm a relic when it comes to this stuff. I mean, they laugh at me about my relationship with screens, but I wanted to ask them. So I asked, the handful of young people who have a very healthy relationship with screens, what tips that they would give to parents and other young people. So this is their wisdom. When it comes to social media, the young lady I worked with came up with this. I really like this. Before being in, taking, posting, or sending a photo or video, I give it the photo album with grandma test. Imagine sitting next to my grandma on Christmas as we look through my photo albums, and if I wouldn't be okay with her seeing it, then it's a no-go. Love it. Give it the photo album Grammy test. Give it a shot. From a 16-year-old I work with. Remember that employers look at your social media. My brother was told he didn't get an offer because of what showed up on his social media background screening. And he has a degree in computer science. Why I shared that last part about the brother having a degree in computer science is, when I talk to young people with this, there seems to be a bit of a blind spot with social media, because when I share this, they'll be like, oh, I can just get rid of it. And it's like, all right, this dude who got a master's degree in computer science can't hide his social media history from the employer. Not sure if you will be able to. So this can kind of border on what feels like a scare tactic, but I always try to, outside of the anecdotal, and I know the plural of anecdote isn't data, but here's some data. So remember the social media background check. I mean, this is pretty strong, high percentages. 90% of employers find social media important when they evaluate candidates. 80% of HR professionals have denied a job to a candidate due to inappropriate content on social media. Young people, they do think about their future and do want to have a job and a career that they enjoy and that they find fulfilling. So just kind of sharing these stats at least provides a little bit of education that might fill in a blind spot if they think kind of what they're doing on social media is really can't be used at any point in the future against them. When it comes to advice on the phone, 19-year-old I work with said, go read a few hours before bed. So on iPhones, and I think on Samsungs as well, you can go into the accessibility and create this shortcut. Oops. Okay, I go back. There we go. There's one article on how to read out your iPhone. So what you do is you go through these series of steps in the settings, and then you can just triple click on the home button and it entirely reads out the phone. Why this is beneficial is it is the blue light that is the sleep assassin. It is the blue light that suppresses the release of melatonin. It is the blue light from phones and screens that really messes with our circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is our 24-hour clock, and each cell in our body has this 24-hour clock. And when they're not synced up, anxiety, frustration, difficulty with executive functions like planning, prioritizing, focus, sustaining effort, working memory, all the things it takes to be successful in school and as a human being. So it's this way of it just red light. So iPhones and other phones have this night shift thing, but there's still blue light in this. So if your kids or you are going to be on your phone at night, if you feel like you have to, at least read it out. So here's an example of technology sort of helping our relationship with technology. Stop multi-screening. One screen at a time. One thing at a time. When I see people watching TV now, it's a two-screen thing. They got a phone in their hand and the TV's on. This is really messing with and decreasing our attention span. I had this this realization. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was up in my loft here, and I have a big screen TV in there. This was a while back, but I had a Nuggets basketball playoff game on mute, and then I had a podcast going on my phone, and then I was playing a golf putting game on my phone, and I was bored. I was incredibly bored. And I said out loud, because I can be a bit dramatic, as you might notice. But while I was up on the couch, I said out loud, how much stimuli do I need to be engaged? I love basketball. It was a playoff game. It's Nikola Jokic. One of the GOATs, top 10 already. Come on. And I'm bored with that. And I've got a podcast of a very interesting person. And the putting game was cool. None of it. That's not an indication that there's something wrong with the game, the podcast, or the other game. It's an indication that there's something off with me. My attention span, my ability to be engaged has gone awry. One thing I do is I often give myself something I like acronyms, an MBA test. I don't even know if that counts as an acronym. But to test if my attention span, my ability to focus and sustain focus and regulate my attention is the MBA. Can I watch a movie from start to finish without a second screen and not be bored? The B, can I read a book without being bored out of my gourd, highly irritable? And A, can I listen to an album from start to finish? An artist I like, an album I used to love. Can I just sit there and listen to a full album and just that? So I like to chuck ideas. Take what you want. The MBA test. So the stop multi-screening. Then I was thinking when I was making this slide yesterday, we're a couple of months away from the spring, but maybe you want to adopt it earlier because I like things that rhyme. And maybe try a one-screen spring as an individual or as a family. That for the next few months, or maybe you want to start in the spring, but who knows? Maybe you want to start now. Just decide that you're only going to interact with one screen at a time. That can be a game changer when it comes to our relationship with attention, focus, and memory. A lot of this conversation that we're having is about whether to use willpower or limiting temptation. And I argue always for limiting temptation. Any difficult task requires oftentimes limiting temptation. So much of the time, we lean on too much our willpower to get into a more healthy relationship with one of the three S's, screens, sugar, and substances. Those are the big three as I see them: screens, sugar, and substances. And if you don't figure out how to have a healthy relationship, be able to do the moderation mambo with those three S's, they'll mess with you. So when looking at those three S's, personally, I know, and in the work that I do with other people, it isn't just about using willpower. It's about limiting temptation. Being intentional, pragmatic, strategic about limiting the temptation to use screens. Willpower is this limited resource, and it drains throughout the day. And it's often at the end of the day that we have the least amount of it. And when do we often turn to our screens for unhealthy usage? At night. So I like to talk more about ways to limit temptation than leaning on willpower. Get a dummy. Now, this is a pretty extreme one, but I want to share it. Get a dummy. What did this 18-year-old mean? He's talking about a dumb phone. They make many of them. The one in the top right is a light phone 2. And it's intentionally dumb, but I see it as smart because it's not about what the phone can do. It's about what the phone can't do. A dumb phone can't access, social media, or oftentimes can't access the web. And because I believe that modeling these positive behaviors is a good thing, I went with it. Here's my dumb phone. Kyocera XR Extreme from Verizon. It works. There's a withdrawal period, but it works. Try. I dare you. I dare you to try to get, where's the thing? Try to get addicted to that web browser. It's got an icon thing on it, a scroll thing, an arrow. You can't even scroll on it. It's wonderful. Now you might be sitting there going, I'm not going to do that. My kid's definitely not going to do that. But I just wanted to share these things because I want people to know someone who doesn't have a smartphone, to practice what they preach, and to share why they don't have it. I have an addictive personality. Throughout my life, I've studied with all three S's: sugar, substances, and screens. And so for me, with screens, it's way more about limiting temptation. And I'm not against screens. I'm doing this presentation through a screen. I have a fitness tracker. It's like, what are the forms of the screen that I can use in moderation and be proud of my usage? When I had a smartphone, I got sucked in. I got sucked into YouTube Shorts, and the young people I work with laughed at that because they're like, that's like not even the good one. Their algorithm is like third behind TikTok. And what is the Instagram one? I can't remember what the Instagram version is. It's going to drive me nuts. And maybe somebody can put it in. Reels? Is it Reels? Anyways, so limiting temptation. Get a dummy. Just an idea. From a 16-year-old I work with. I got tired of being tired, so I now use an alarm clock and charge my phone in the kitchen overnight. Every young person I work with, I bring up, where is the cell phone? And I'll share research, study after study that shows going to sleep in a room where your cell phone isn't, it shows increases in the amount of time, or it takes less time to fall asleep. You hit deeper patterns of sleep. You're more likely to stay asleep, wake up feeling rejuvenated because you're hitting that REM and also that deep sleep. It's all there in the research. And every time I share a study, the young person will smile and go, nice, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing that. But you see, I can't, because I use my phone as my alarm clock. This is when I smile in an impish grin, because in my office, I have dozens and dozens of old school alarm clocks. They work. And I put it as a challenge. I try to make these things fun. And I got to do them too, right? Like, so I have an alarm clock that I can't reach, by the way. That's another thing. Don't have the alarm clock so that you can reach it. I'm fascinated with with technology and when a technology surpassed its most ideal form. Like whoever invented the snooze, that was a step back when it comes to alarm clocks. It was better without the snooze. So I have to put my alarm clock on the dresser on the other side of the room, so I have to get out of bed. In college, I had 3 alarm clocks. Young person I'm working with is doing the same strategy. There's an alarm clock on the dresser, there's one in the hallway, and there's a battery operated one that sits in the shower. So he has to turn off this series of alarm clocks so that by the time he turns off the last one in the shower, he's standing in the shower. And like 99% of the time, he goes, might as well, and starts his day. I'm really big on the alarm clocks. Hate to say it, but the alarm clock thing works. Look how rested that person is. Wouldn't you want to be that rested? And that's actually the alarm clock that I have. It's a good one if you're looking for recommendations. These, any of these look familiar? These are some of the symptoms of anxiety, ADHD, and depression. I got to change that slide. ADD isn't a thing anymore, just ADHD. And here's sort of my psych surprise slide. Those are also the signs of insufficient sleep. If your child gets less than 7 hours of sleep, they are experiencing insufficient sleep, especially in adolescence when they need more. So this fatigue we see, the irritability, the mental fog, the lack of focus, the short temper, the low motivation, impaired memory, difficulty regulating emotions, these executive functions things. Before we can know, and by the way, I'm not saying that anxiety, ADHD, and depression aren't real. I mean, shoot, I've had all of them, or currently have some of them. I'm just saying that before we can know if it is generalized anxiety disorder, if it is ADHD, if it is a depressive episode, these kids got to sleep. When I go into a school to give a presentation and I go up to students and say, how are you? What's the number one answer? Tired, tired, tired. And we just kind of go, me too, and move along. We need to start with sleep. Sleep is the foundation of mental health, physical health, and performance. When I work with a person who's consistently tired, I go to these big 3 acronyms. I hope they make sense because I'm surprised by how many young people answer these. ATV, VOW, and DOSE. Those mean VOW stands for variance of waking. What research is showing is that sleep consistency is likely as important as getting 8 hours of sleep, if not more. For so long, we just focus on getting enough sleep. But what sleep study after sleep study is showing, it's more than that. What seems to be more important than total duration is still very important, is consistency and the variance of the waking. You're totally in control of that. So how you figure that out? What's the latest that you get up during the week and what's the earliest that you get up during the week? When I ask a young person this, they'll often say they get up at noon on Sunday and have to get up at 6 a.m. on Monday. That is a variance of 6 hours, and that ain't going to go well. All those executive functions that they need for school on Monday, they're not there because of that high variance. So I realize that for young people, it's difficult to get that variance to 0 because that's ideal. But if you're at 6, try to get to 4. If you're at 4, get to 3. If you're at 3, get to 2. 2 hours or less variance. 1 hour is awesome. And as I tell the young people I work with, I've been saying that a lot, is like, if you're going to sleep in on Saturday more than Sunday. Get up earlier on Sunday. It's okay to be tired on Sunday. The good thing about that is hopefully you're tired earlier and go to bed early. Don't have a big variance throughout the week. Definitely don't have a big variance between Sunday and Monday. So that's what VAL stands for. ATV, awake to vertical. I used to make the mistake of asking people, what time do you wake up? Versus, what time are you out of bed? There's a lot of hanging out in bed for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half hour, up to an hour of laying there. And what's often the culprit with that? The phone. I personally haven't met somebody who just lays in bed who isn't laying in bed with a screen in the morning. So I was about to say it again, the young people I work with, get the vow down, get the ATV down. This will be huge. And finally, dose. This number you want to get up, delay of screen exposure. Sometimes I go, like, from the time you wake up till the time you're on a screen, what is it? Some people say seconds, 5 seconds, 30 seconds. It's not the energy that we want to start or end our days with. If you ask somebody who's quite content or successful in basically any metric that you want to use, for the most part, be very interested in the first half hour of their day and the last half hour of their day, or the first hour and the last hour of their day. It'll tell you a lot. We're kind of creatures of a day, and how we bookend it is very important. And there's so many young people who the bookends are a screen. And that creates a reactive, at times chaotic, panicked relationship with the day, with the world around them. Give yourself a few minutes to get your feet set, an intention set, before you get on the screen. This is the wisdom of Wilma Boder, who was my grandmother, who lived in Hope, North Dakota. She had a 3-2-1 rule before bed. Supper had to be at least 3 hours before bed. Research shows that you don't want to have any big meals, 2 to 3 hours, 3 hours before bed. In 2 hours, no more stress. No more work, no more emails. So for your kids, no more homework. For you, no more emails, no more work. And then the last hour, no more screens. I really like that. I hope that some of this is helpful with simplifying and making this more fun and having rituals and rules and things that you can remember to, again, have a more balanced relationship with screens and social media. We're supposed to sort of like descend into sleep. It's not a light switch. So many of us think that we can be on a screen or be stressed or be doing these things and then just flip a light and go to sleep. No, we're much like a plane in that there's this process of descending. Put your tray tables up. The lights are dim, right? Still the things. Do you have a nightly routine? I have this thing that I created, almost done with it. I call it the Sleep Great 8. And it's 8 different categories around sleep to sort of check in with people and also educate them. And a lot of it has to do with screens, like the 8th one, like here, the phone zone. And you want more stars, basically. Where's the phone? Get that thing out of the room. Try this 30-day alarm clock challenge. Alarm clocks are $5 to $10. Shoot, I'll email me. I'll send you one. I just want to litter the world with alarm clocks, old school ones. And then the done with screens thing. Anyways, I wanted to share this of knowing that sleep is foundational. Well, screens have a huge impact on our sleep. We know this. In general, if you're looking for general, we need brighter days and darker nights. For the last 20 years, sleep hygiene has sort of been the buzz phrase when it comes to professionals. Watch the next 20, or things are sped up. The next 5 years, if they're not already here, the phrasing will be light hygiene. We need to have brighter days and darker nights. So meaning more sunlight and less blue light. Yeah. What can we do? Big 3. In your home, as a family, have screen-free zones, screen-free activities, and screen curfews. And my advice is for every member of the family, they apply. If you have an adolescent, maybe even younger, you probably know how it goes if there's particular rules for your child that don't apply to you. Now I get it. I get that your work email is different than then TikTok scrolling, but I'm just saying, because this stuff is so important, why not model it? The young person who gets kicked off the sticks off the video game because it's time for dinner and sits down at the table, but dad isn't there because he's in the office, but he's doing work, and the kid loses their stuff, right? There could be this highly reactive response to things that feel hypocritical. We have our life and we have our lessons, and the distance between the two is something called hypocrisy. And nobody likes hypocrisy. So can we live it? We want to be specific, objective with it. Just saying, I'm going to try to use my phone less. Good luck with that. No, be specific. Create zones in your home that are screen-free. There's no TVs in there, but nobody's allowed to be on their phone in there. And I really recommend having the zones be bedrooms. No one gets a screen in their bedroom. It's a sanctuary. It is a sacred place for sleep. You might sit there and go, well, I can watch an episode of television and go to bed. Yeah, I get it. But if everybody's involved, you're more likely to get buy-in and less resistance. Having screen-free zones. Rooms in your house. I hope the dinner table is a zone where you can't be on technology. Activities. What activities as a family will always be screen-free? Walks. Car rides. Remember car rides? That's where the best conversations used to happen between young people and their parents. Now, not so much because they're buried in a phone. I like the rule, nobody's on their phone in car rides under 2 hours. Eating. Get creative. What activities as a family? No screens. And then a curfew. And I think it should be the same for every member in the family. And have a charging station as a family. As far away from the child's bedroom who's most addicted to their phone. When I had a smartphone, I used to keep it in my car because I don't have a garage. So it was parked out in the street, and I put my phone in there, and it was wonderful. So my delay of screen exposure was pretty good because I couldn't reach it. And then when I was done for the night, and it was like this shame circle thing where when I was jonesing for some screen time, I'd be in bed, like in my PJs or whatever. And I'd be like, I'm either too lazy or be too embarrassed to at like midnight go like sneak out to grab my phone in my car. So that's a random idea. Works. We can be creative with these things, but it's about limiting temptation more so than talking willpower. Create a family media plan. There's the URL. It's through healthychildren.org. It's a great resource. You can put your children's names in there, their ages, put it up, commit to it as a family. This is my favorite thing when it comes to parenting, teaching, mentoring. My favorite quote all time, James Baldwin, who was a teacher. Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. Let's model the most appropriate, healthy relationship with our screens. And have a conversation with our young people, what they're getting out of the screen. And then putting in those zones, curfew, and activities. And you can validate their frustration that their friends don't have to do that. And I guarantee you at some point, your kids, if you do these types of things and their friends didn't do it, I guarantee you, some point in the future, they'll be having a chat with people their age and realize that these other people's parents didn't do that. And there will be this spin of like, oh my goodness, my parents cared enough. Because I mean, the research is going to just be more overwhelming about screens and our relationship with them, that you did the difficult thing yourself and put these expectations as a family because you know the research, because you care so much about their executive functions, their well-being. And I'm rambling on, and I want to open it up to any questions if there's any questions. Thank you so much. I hope some of that was helpful.
Yeah, wow. I mean, 2 pages of notes personally myself that I've taken, from ideas to implement, just incredible. Yes, the grandma test, favorite. Implementing that one. But yeah, just, the mind is spinning. So yes, a few questions have come through. Again, if anybody has a question, please put it in the Q&A. But one, Nick, is and first, thank you so much for sharing. Like it just your passion is you can feel it through the screen. But will the slides, will those be available in any way, shape, or form? We've had a couple people ask about that. There's just such great content in there. And I know obviously we will have this presentation shared on our Parent University page. But if somebody wanted, more information or a slide, is there a way that they can connect with you? Is that okay to share your email, or can we make the slides available? It's up to you.
Yeah, I can just share the whole slideshow with you if that
Okay,
works.
that'd be great. Yeah, and then what I will do is share that out on our YouTube channel, our Parent University page. Just a link to that if that's okay.
For sure.
Okay, perfect. And then Steve, I think this is more a question for you. Is DCSD aware of, kiddos in our schools where they're not able to be on their phones, and or there are certain parameters around what they're able to access, when they're in a school setting, kids getting a little bit creative and finding ways to circumvent how they're navigating things and accessing things? Is DCSD aware of that? Do we have, what would be the best protocol for a family that maybe is navigating that?
So I'll get specific and then I'll get more general. So to the extent that any of your kids or you hear about um, um, activity, behavior that raises a flag, please make sure and reach out to your building leader about that. That way your building leader and our IT department can work on a possible fix on that. And let me get that dovetails a little bit into the general. So our Wi-Fi, district Wi-Fi has pretty strong filters to where accessing social media, using our Wi-Fi, unless you have basically top secret clearance, is pretty much a no-go. Now, here's what happens, and it's a pretty easy workaround. Kids can disconnect from Wi-Fi, use their cell phone plan, and access lots of stuff that our Wi-Fi would not. And so in that context, we're in a scenario, our staff is in a situation where, if we see it, then we can act on it. But there isn't that filter, and so that the Wi-Fi allows for. So if they're using their personal cell phone, if they're on their personal cell plan, and we don't see it, it's difficult. It's difficult, and there's not an easy way around that other than working through, potentially, let's say, and some of our buildings do this. If I'm a student, I walk into my 10th grade history class, my phone goes straight to a cubby at the front of the class, and I don't see it. I don't use my phone. I don't see my phone until the end of the class, or the teacher says, "Hey, there's a discrete use for it for academic purposes." So that's one layer that we can bring to bear. The other layer is, and we're working through this, is, of course, if I'm that 10th grade student, I'm not using it during class time, but I'm using it during passing periods. I'm using it during lunch. I'm using it before and after school. And what does that dynamic look like? Which gets us back to Wi-Fi versus cell service. So there are a lot of layers to that. But all of that to say, again, if you are hearing this, sensing it, that your kid or other kids are using it in a way that we don't want, please reach out to your leader, and we'll do everything we can to work through that.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like I've got someone who has their hand up. So I'm going to see if she has a question to ask here. Did you have a question there, Bridget? You are muted, so. Maybe not. One, question that came up, Nick, for you,
Yeah.
is, historically, parents, we purchase phones to communicate with our kids, right? It starts with the intent of we want to be able to reach you because maybe they have activities or they have, carpooling, whatever. And then slowly that progresses pretty quickly, depending on their age, into a variety of, oh, we need this app, or oh, so-and-so has this app and I want this and I need to feel connected through this. And, it can snowball pretty quickly. Is this something that you see in your industry as kiddos maybe wanting more parameters from the adults in their life? Or it just kind of seems like it can snowball in a quick way. And as a parent, I'm speaking solely as a parent here, I feel that way very much myself in what has happened, to some of my kiddos, is I get it with the intent of them having a phone so they can stay connected to me. And then suddenly they've got, apps that are, it starts with games, but then it becomes more social media, and then it becomes, this, that, and the other. And, I'm just wondering if maybe on the child end of things, they are feeling like they would want, more parameters in place.
Yeah, thank you. Such a great question. And thank you all for being here. And again, I apologize for how long it took me to get up and running with it. So that's a great question. That young people, in my experience, they don't want those parameters sort of in the moment emotionally because they're addicted. Now, what I can say is when young people, when you're open to listening, they more times than not are aware of their unhealthy relationship with the screen. Also, when you get a young person to create a healthy boundary with screens, they're good at noticing that it's good for them. Talked to a kid today and he was talking about, yeah, when we go camping every summer, I fall asleep at 9 p.m. I wake up with the sun. I have way more energy. I don't have a 3 o'clock fatigue. And because we don't have cell service. So the connections are made. So I know that's not a straight answer, but it's sort of like, do they want it? No, but oftentimes they need it. And what I smile a big smile when I know somebody well enough. So many school districts, as you are aware, are putting in different things with screens. I work with this young man who goes to a school in Breckenridge. Is that right? Yeah. And they have the full, when you walk in, you give over your phone at the high school and they put it in a yonder pouch, which is like this sealed magnetic thing. Now they're adolescents, so they've got burner phones. They find different, like he told me, he goes, the bathroom that used to be the best bathroom to vape is now the best bathroom to get on your phone. So there's these workarounds, but it's important enough to make these efforts. And when I smile is often, young people will use safety as a justification to get the phone earlier in life or to keep the phone. And I smile if I know the young person well enough. I'll go, man, you're having a pretty elevated response to Boulder Valley's decision to get rid of cell phones. And he's like, but what if my mom needs me? And I go, walk me through when your mom needs me. What if there's an emergency? And then I'll go, give me the scenario where you having your cell phone on you in fifth period will change the outcome of the emergency. Wow. It's more about them wanting access to their phone, either for validation, gratification, or distraction. Like we talked about earlier, to be a member of a tribe, you got to remain on that. So I encourage parents to watch when levels of fear make things unhealthy in terms of screen usage. Does that make sense? Because it can be like, well, they need, what if an emergency happens? And when I'm doing parent work, I'll often go, give me the example where your 10-year-old having the phone changes the outcome. So I think you look for amount of time, check out the screen time. If it's an unhealthy amount, if they have difficulty getting off of it, and if other aspects of their life, if their physical wellness, their academic wellness, their social wellness, and their emotional wellness is dropping, take a look at the phone usage.
Absolutely.
If I can add too, from a school and a district perspective, here's what I'll tell you. And again, I got 3 little kids too. And in case the horrendous happens at any one of our schools, we don't anticipate that obviously, but we're always prepared. Actually, the last thing you want is for kids to be on cell phones, making noise, and or not listening to directions from teachers, law enforcement, what have you. So truly, and I think to Nick's point, there isn't really a use case where an emergency, where a lack of a cell phone is going to hinder a kid in emergency. Because in the less horrendous, more run of the mill, kids are always going to have access to school phones that they can use, landlines that they can use to call you. Again, in case of a horrendous emergency, a school shooting, that sort of thing, you actually don't want kids on phones. You really, really don't, irrespective of their age.
That's a good point. Well, yeah, this is a lot. I mean, thank you both for taking time out of your busy evening to share about such an ever-evolving topic. This is, scratching the surface, I'm sure, but just so timely and so appreciative of both of you for sharing tonight. Yeah, head is spinning, but I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we've gone a little bit over. Again, this is being recorded. We will share this out on our Parent University page along with Nick's slides from tonight. Thank you so much for that. A link to our DCSD digital literacy page as well on our website. And again, if you have any questions, by all means, please email me and I will get your email to the appropriate person if it is related to this topic tonight. I just want to take a minute, thank Nick Thompson so much for sharing, Steve Coella so much for sharing, the Douglas County Healthy Youth Coalition for sponsoring tonight's event, as well as HCA Health One Skyridge. If you are still on and you've been listening, please take the Parent University survey that's going to come to you at the end of this. This is meant to be a platform for you, parents. We want to ensure that we're providing you with the content that you want. So we're always open to, whatever topic and do our best to really make that happen. So again, thank you all for being here tonight, and everybody stay warm. We'll see you next month.